Welcome to Afterimage. I'm David Kurlander. I'm the editorial producer for the Cafe and Vox Media podcast network history show Now and Then. Afterimage is a new video series that aims to examine overlooked pieces of media, film scenes, paintings, songs, news footage from the lives of inspiring folks who have recently passed on. Today, we are thrilled to welcome the actor Michael York to discuss his colleague Angela Lansbury, who died in October at the age of 96. You may know Lansbury as the conniving mother in the 1962 political thriller The Manchurian Candidate. You might know her as Mrs. Lovett in the original Broadway production of Stephen Sondheim's Sweeney Todd. Or maybe you know her as the television investigator Jessica Fletcher in Murder, She Wrote, or as the voice of Mrs. Potts in Beauty and the Beast. And I would guess you know York too. During his storied career, he played Tybalt in Franco Zeffirelli's acclaimed 1968 film version of Romeo and Juliet. He was the loyal Brian Roberts opposite Liza Minnelli's Sally Bowles in the 1972 film Cabaret. He was the titular Logan in the 1976 sci-fi film Logan's Run, which is a personal favorite of mine. And he was the unflappable Basil Exposition in the Austin Powers film series. And this is just scratching the surface of both of these iconic careers. I highly recommend you check out many more of the movies that both York and Lansbury starred in. Now, York and Lansbury starred together in the 1970 film Something for Everyone. York plays Konrad Ludwig, a drifter in Bavaria who schemes to become a servant and confidant of Angela Lansbury's Countess Ornstein. York's Konrad uses his charm, good looks, and decided shamelessness to seduce pretty much everybody who can be useful to him, including both Lansbury and her son Helmuth. The film shines in large part due to the incredible chemistry between Lansbury and York, as they scheme together to regain the Countess's pre-World War II fortune by any means necessary. So without further ado, here is Michael York discussing Angela Lansbury and Something for Everyone. Michael York, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
So we're going to talk today about your role opposite Angela Lansbury in Something for Everyone. And I wanted to start by just asking you a bit about where you were in your life and your career in 1969 when you began this project, Something for Everyone, and when you first met Angela Lansbury.
Well, I was beginning to make a reputation for myself as a go-to actor, I think the phrase is. And I was actually in Europe and had to come back to New York, where I saw Angela on Broadway in Dear Liar. We hit it off immediately. I loved her. She, how could you dislike Angela? Anyway, we said how much we were going to look forward to the movie that summer.
And had you been familiar with her work before and had that sort of knowledge of her oeuvre as you were starting out?
Yes, she was, from Gaslight onwards. It was very surprising that she actually she played Lawrence Harvey's mother in the
Manchurian Candidate.
Candidate. So I was very pleased for her that this role in Something for Everyone was absolutely sexy. 1,000 miles from mum and mother. And so I really did look forward, because the director was the great Hal Prince, the Broadway legend, making his film debut with Something for Everyone. And moreover, we were doing it in a wonderful place in Germany, in Bavaria, in the area around where King Ludwig had built his castle. The castle was a big feature of the story at Neuschwanstein. And it's interesting because there we had the run of the place. We used, all the salons and the whatever. But years later, I went back and it was almost impossible to get into Neuschwanstein because of the crowds, and you had to book. So I realized how lucky we were to take this for granted almost. And it was a wonderful summer.
Now, that summer that you were filming, a lot was going on in the world, from the moon landing to the Manson murders. Do you remember being conscious and discussing sort of the political situation of the world while you were filming, or was it kind of a world apart?
Oh, very much so. No. I mean, enough friends and visitors came with news of fresh developments, Vietnam, the Manson killings. And it was very interesting. It was the summer of the moon landing. And Hal had invited us to his house to watch this extraordinary event. He'd rented a television, but we were late and missed it. So there was a discussion, earnest discussion about Werner von Braun, his part in the achievement. And later, I would play a role in space and would play exactly that character, a German involved in, moon research.
Now, sort of on that theme of the legacy of the Nazis and trying to come to grips with post-war Germany, so much of Something for Everyone is a commentary on Germany after World War II and this new man. And you wrote in your incredible memoir, Accidentally on Purpose, about your perceptions of your character, Conrad. And you said he was the 1970s version of the new man, greedy, opportunistic, materialistic, and downright immoral, and that against him, the old orders, aristocratic, political, moral, whatever, had no protection. So I'm curious to get into that more, how you envisioned Conrad as the new man, and then what role Angela played, as a foil to that.
Well, she was, of course, part of the aristocracy, but the failed aristocracy, they lost their, relevance and their possessions. And she was living cheaply in the dower house of the castle and living on the cheap. So when the bourgeois rich Pleshkas turned up, here was an opportunity to get them to buy the castle for one thing, and to put some money in the Ornstein estate.
Now, was it difficult to play a character who is conniving to the degree that Conrad was conniving in seducing all of these various characters, from Countess Ornstein to Helmuth to Anneliese Pleshka? Or how did you approach kind of playing someone with that type of strategic immorality?
Well, it was a black comedy. I knew that. One couldn't take it too seriously. It had to be played with a certain exhilaration. And I must say, in Hugh Wheeler, Hal found a perfect interpreter. His script was written like music. It was he was raised in England, Hugh, as was Angela, as I was, and I think our European perspective had a bearing on how it was played. Um, in a way, it was outrageous, but that was the whole point. And if it was played with a certain charm and finesse, I think it was very appealing. And even though people are murdered, there's all sorts of uh, evil goings on. Um, it's not without charm because in a way, you root for these characters. Um, you want them to succeed. And as you say, or as I said, there is a serious side to this mysterious stranger, Conrad, the new man. And Germany was changing. I mean, the old aristocratic orders were fading, and the nouveau riche were taking over. And so underneath it, there was a certain verisimilitude. But I think it's a stylish movie. I mean, and the great thing is that Angela was able to look sexy after the experience of the Manchurian Candidate playing a mother. Here she was, a no-holds-barred, sexy lady. And in the way the film had been adapted from a novel by Harry Cressing called The Cook, but in this version, Something for Everyone, people were maneuvered through sex, and certainly my character, where you felt even the dogs weren't safe. But it does have the most wonderful ending, unexpected, which I'm not going to give away. But it was great fun to do. And I have to say, we all got on. And spending a summer in that gorgeous part of the world was no hardship.
Now, I'm not going to give away the ending either, but to our viewers, it's going to knock you out. It's an incredible ending. And on this subject of Angela as a sex symbol or as a sexy character in this film, the chemistry between the two of you in the film is remarkable and really provides the emotional core of the film, in my opinion. I was curious whether there was a scene or a moment in the film that you felt best represented that on-screen chemistry the two of you had.
Wow, you're being very generous. I think it's a longer than a moment. It's when he sees his opportunity and gets her to reopen the castle, to do business with the Pleshkas, the nouveau riche, and sadly their daughter too. No, there were lots of moments. And also you must remember that a film is never shot linearly. It's always jumping back and forth. But I do have to compliment Hugh Wheeler on this amazing script. It reads like music, and no wonder he and Hal became firm partners. He worked on so many Hal Prince productions afterwards, deservedly. But the sheer, when the Countess explains to me that great scene where she throws everything away and declares her new found values. But he was they worked on several productions after this, and they were always distinguished by Hugh's great writing and Hal's direction. And I'm glad to say Hugh and I became great friends and stayed that way. It was one of the joys of the film, making friends with a great writer.
There's a timelessness to it. It feels, in addition to being both a commentary on a particular moment in Germany, it almost feels like a fairy tale.
Well, that's what Hal was going to call the movie at one time, fairy tale. And this is emphasized in the credits. And John Cander's great music he provided. It is a fairy tale, but I have to say a rather dark one.
Indeed. Now, I'm curious if you stayed in touch with Angela after the filming, and if the two of you were ever able to talk retrospectively about the film and able to catch up on what it was like to make the movie.
Well, we did meet subsequently. She went on to wonderful things. We'd meet, say, at the Kennedy Center Honors and places like that, where tribute was justly being paid to her for her incredible body of work over 8 decades. I've never known anyone work so hard and so productively.
It really is. When you look at her credits from start to finish on stage and screen, it's pretty unrivaled in terms of the diversity and the sheer prolificness of her output.
Oh, yes. I think because she had Irish blood as well as English and US, I think that really does, give you an advantage. It's a sort of blessing that Irish people seem to have, the ability to deal with language as Angela did.
I know the film was recognized in its time by many, but that it did not necessarily get the type of release and the type of attention in its moment. And I'm curious if you have a feeling why that might have been, given its brilliance and how you perceived that at the time.
Yes, it was curious. Someone dropped the ball en route. I know Hal wanted to issue the film himself under his own banner because he was so displeased with the distribution. But it had its moment. It played in New York for a long time. But it was never quite the total success. But it's still around, I'm glad to say. And a lot of people love it because it's so outrageous and yet so beguiling and innocent.
I agree. I found it only after Angela's death and was immediately taken with it and was surprised that I hadn't heard of it before.
I know. And even in her obituaries, it's not mentioned, or at least not that often, whereas I think it's one of her great performances.
I agree.
Another person worth mentioning is that the great Walter Lasserly did the cinematography, one of the great Oscar-winning independents, which added so much. The look of the film is great.
There's a scene where you're in the castle surrounded by hundreds of lit candles. And it's one of the most beautifully lit scenes that I think I've ever seen in a film.
Well, thank you. You're right. It's a bit of fantasy that comes off. And this Conrad is always dreaming at the beginning, to see the castle when he's a young kid. But his ascent to the master bedroom is quite something.
It really is. I would not spoil that scene either, but it's one to look out for, certainly.
Well, I realize now how lucky we were to be able to film in Neuschwanstein itself. We'd turn up, we'd go from room to room. Now you can't get near the place. It's one of the great tourist destinations of Germany, of Bavaria. And not long ago, I was filming in Munich and decided to go back and visit where we'd been. It had all changed. You couldn't get near it. You couldn't get a reservation or a parking space. So we were so lucky. I was king of the castle in more ways than one.
In terms of any conversations that you had with Angela about her role as the Countess and moments where you discussed your respective characters, did you spend much time one-on-one with her or in conversation with Hal Prince discussing what your interplay should be?
Yes, except that we all got on that it was never an issue. She could do her role backwards, and she had this great script, as I said, and played it for all it's worth. I was thrilled to be playing this role. I remember when it was offered to me, it was sent to me in California. I read it. I couldn't believe my luck. Called, and it was a number in New York, and it was 3 a.m. I said, "So you see, I really like it. Let's make it happen."
I have a sort of broader question about Angela. Coming off of Something for Everyone, as one of these seminal roles in her career, are there other works where you feel that she brings the same intensity to her performances? And are there any that you would most recommend or that you feel are most instructive in terms of understanding her brilliance?
Gosh, as I said, there's a lifetime of work to review. I can't think of one, but I would love people to see her performance in Something for Everyone, because it's one of the great performances, and it doesn't deserve to be ignored. As I said with her recent obituary, one looked in vain to see it listed. But all I can say is I consider myself fortunate having had that experience, because we got on from the moment we met, and we never worked together again, but it would have been wonderful. But this was experience enough.
And I must say that I feel fortunate, not only to be getting to talk to you, but also for getting to see this film and the fact that people still can see it today. and
Yes.
that so many people love it.
Well, here we go.
There it is.
DVDs.
Yes.
That's the Richard Avedon photo.
Wow. Oh, what a photo.
Yes. It sort of set the tone.
That was before the filming took place?
Yes. I swung by New York. Angela was doing Dear Lie on Broadway. And we spent a few moments with Avedon. Very worthwhile.
Gorgeous. Gorgeous shots. Wow. Well, on that note, I just want to thank you, Michael, for taking the time to talk with me.
No, it's my pleasure.
And to everyone watching, definitely go out and watch Something for Everyone, and also check out some of the other incredible performances from Angela Lansbury's career and from the incredible career of Michael York as well. And thank you again, Michael.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for checking out this third installment of Afterimage. And thank you to our guest, Michael York, for talking to me about the incredible Angela Lansbury and Something for Everyone. We'll be back with more archival deep dives and conversations about incredible lives.